Last quarter, I was working with an engineering team on a big review they had with leadership. It was important because if they didn't get approval, their whole project would be canceled. So they prepared for days. They had engagement charts, download trend graphs, and slide after slide of data point. But about 5 minutes into the practice, I paused and asked, "So, what does this mean for the business?" Everyone froze. That's when they realized they had the what, but not the so what. In other words, why did this matter to their audience? They had over-prepared their content, but under-prepared their message. The reason I'm sharing this story is because if you have an important pitch or meeting coming up, you don't want to leave your audience thinking, "So what does this mean for me?" The ARC story structure that we'll teach in this video will help you shape your story, so that way it lands with your audience and quickly. Then you can get into the data.
Hi, I'm Ann with Lighthouse Communications. And if you've seen our other YouTube videos, you might know that we have a video on a 5-part story structure. We love that structure, but sometimes you don't have time to do 5 parts. You just might have 30 seconds or less. And that's where this new structure, ARC, comes in. It's a simple 3-part structure, and it's perfect for kicking off an important meeting or presentation. Let's break it down. ARC stands for action, realization, connection. Step 1 is jump into the action. Don't give a bunch of background, just jump into the story. For example, instead of...
So let me give you some context. I coach people on communication, and I was working with this one client who was presenting for some directors, or maybe they were VPs. I forget if it was virtual or in person, but...
Boring. I'm already lost. I don't know where the context ends, where the story begins. Instead, make it specific and use a time marker. You could say 2 weeks ago, last night. Let's rewind and see what Jack did.
Last quarter, I was working with an engineering team on a big review with leadership. If they didn't get approval, their whole project would be canceled.
Notice that Jack introduced tension right away. There are stakes, a problem to be solved. Let's keep listening.
They prepared for days. They had slide after slide of user stats, download trends, engagement charts. But about 5 minutes into the practice, I paused them and asked, "So what does this mean for the business?" Everyone froze.
We're just a few seconds in and we're already wanting to know what happens next. Step 2, realization. What's the light bulb moment? What did you or the character realize as a result of going through this tension and this experience? Let's go back and see what Jack's realization was.
That's when it hit them. They had the what, but not the so what. In other words, what did this mean for their audience? They had over-prepared their content, but under-prepared their message.
Any good story needs a realization or a shift, a behavior, a belief that has changed as a result of going through that experience. And what really works well is to say, that's when I realized, or that's when the team realized. Now for the final step of the structure, connection. In other words, what is the main message you want your audience to take away from your story? In movies and books, we often leave that connection open to interpretation. But in business stories, you want to make it explicit. What is the message that you're trying to convey? For example,
the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because if you have an important presentation or pitching an idea, you don't want to leave your audience thinking, "So what does this matter to me?" The ARC story structure that we'll go over in this video will help you shape your story so that way you can make an impact and fast. Then you can get into the data.
In a nutshell, that's ARC: action, realization, connection. That's the basic structure, and that's really going to help you shape a concise story. And if you really want your story to pop, don't forget to show, not tell. In other words, include some specific and vivid details within the structure to really make it memorable. For example, Jack could have said,
"The team was really nervous."
But instead he said,
"They prepared for days. They had charts of engagement trends, download graphs, and slide after slide of data."
Now that you know the basic arc structure, let's look at one more example from start to finish. For this example, imagine that Jack is trying to convince his leadership team to prioritize making their app easier to use. And he's kicking off this meeting with an arc story. Let's take a look.
This past weekend, I was helping my friend set up her new smart home system. She was so excited. She had been checking the mail for days, and then it finally arrived. But when she got started, 3 apps, 4 different passwords, and 5 hours later, nothing worked. She screamed, "Why won't this thing work? I hate this thing." That's when I realized, as engineers, we often focus on the capability of something rather than the clarity. But if it's not clear, the audience won't use it. I share this story because our app is experiencing the same problem. We've noticed most people delete it after the first day of downloading after they can't figure it out. So we can fix this. If we can make things really clear from the first click, we'll build user engagement and retention.
There it is. Action, realization, connection. Try it out in your next meeting or presentation. Let us know how it goes in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.